collapse following the worst week for crude since 2008. Futures are tumbling yet again as the expectation for demand continues to weaken. Saudi Aramco, meanwhile, says it's slashing planned spending this year. The company says capital expenditure will be between $25 and $30 billion, down from the $35 to $40 billion range announced in its IPO prospectus just a few months ago. Joining us now is Alex Booth, head of market analysis at Kpler. You know, this isn't entirely unexpected as we see continued closings for major brands like Nike and Apple. Of course, social distancing is getting much more serious, and even borders, you know, inside Europe are starting to be closed. I don't even know how that's possible anymore. Where do you see the bottom for this, Alex?
Hi, good morning there. Well, I think where we started in China with the very severe demand hits, the kind of very clear signals from the airlines, the domestic airlines out there, that is now just being replicated over here in Europe. As you say, the closure of the borders. I was passing through from Austria into Germany a couple of weeks ago. They shut the motorway down to one lane. Back then, it was looking for, we believe, just Italian cars at the time, but now they can just shut the roads. I think despite the Schengen Agreement, it is possible. I think we've seen significant cuts in airline flights, cancellations left, right, and center, and that's just going to continue. Everything from the government here certainly is saying that we're going to be in for the long haul for the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think some freight is still supposed to be getting through on those closed borders, Alex, but yeah, some emergency provisions in Schengen allowing some closures. Let me ask you what happens on oil prices then from here, because WTI at 30.58, Brent at 32, and there has been some expectation, given the US is going to start buying oil, WTI, for its strategic reserves, that's going to catch up a little with Brent. How much is that, you know, the market's focus at this point?
Well, I think obviously that announcement only came out very late late at the end of last week. The scale that buying can have, or the impact that buying can have, I think is relatively limited. There is, say, about 80 million barrels worth of capacity left in US SPR. Now, that's around 450,000 barrels a day for the next 6 months or so. If you consider the decrease in global demand that started with China and is only going to continue, alongside the stated aims of Saudi and Russia to just continue producing, then I think it's going to be relatively muted. Yes, you will see a tightening of TI Brent, but I think from a kind of an absolute flat price point of view, it should have fairly minimal impact. We're still really yet to see any significant change from the Saudis, certainly in terms of their exports, basically.
What do you think about the WTI Brent spread, Alex? The White House has said it wants to buy more oil for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. I don't know, you know, the ins and outs of those reserves, but it sounds like a no-brainer. I can't imagine why they haven't started already. Why isn't that holding up the price of NYMEX crude?
Well, as I say, I think the scale of buying that the U.S. government can do and the time frame in which it has to do it, compared to what we're seeing in the rest of the markets, be it the sentiment from Saudi production and Russian production numbers, and what, as you were alluding to earlier, the demand impacts. I think it's going to be quite a muted response. Yes, you will see a strengthening in WTI, but I'd say the mechanics of those purchases are going to take time to organize. My understanding is you have to go through essentially a kind of a longer term process, basically, for that buying.
Okay, thanks very much, Alex. Alex Booth, head of market analysis at Kpler, giving us his thoughts on the oil market. Speaking of oil, we will be talking to Brian Gilvary, the BP CFO. That's at 12 o'clock UK time, to get his latest thoughts on where the business heads here with Brent at $32 a barrel. Let me tell you some breaking news coming through. Bank of Korea cutting its key interest rate to 0.75% from 1.25%. So